Twinny, why weren't you here last week? Because I said this, right? I said the men should let the women speak, right? And the men was like, oh, we want to give solutions. I say, you don't give any solutions. That's what the research says. Most of the men said, no, you know how men are. We're going to give solutions. But what I really was talking about was emotional intelligence. But the men were not trying to hear it. They're like, no, what she talking about? She don't know what you're talking about. I'm talking about research. But what Marcus is saying, if you have that, if you go the extra mile and you do listen to her and you see her point of view and you let her, vent or whatever, y'all saying that y'all don't want to listen to the woman. He's saying if you have emotional intelligence, you're not going to have no problems with women. And I agree.
Is not money. Provision is infrastructure. If a man has the ability, the mind, the mental sharpness, and the fortitude to come into your life and provide real infrastructure, then he is a provider. There are seasons in a person's life where they 50 might not look like half the bills, but if he shows up in other ways to supplement and make it make sense, you got to understand that. And I'm sorry, ladies, I'm not sending this as a shot to discourage you, sending it as a shot to wake up. If the only thing you know of provision is a paycheck, then you know nothing of it. If that's what you think a man being a provider is, you have no clue what a real provider is supposed to do. That's why so many kept women are lonely.
I agree with him. I usually agree with a lot of this stuff Trip be saying. Especially so, and I think it's beneficial for men too with that statement, with the change in the way economic status is set up, with the advanced degrees that women are achieving, the ability for them to earn more creates a dynamic where if you just were to try and vet men strictly through a financial means, you wind up with people that can only date the top 10%, which leave the other 90% single. And I've talked about this before. I think as men, we kind of struggle with understanding what women are asking for when they talk about emotional security or being in a safe place or feeling protected and those type of things. And because we do that, we might believe, all right, I made enough. I just go work, pay the bills, come home, and that's really all that I'm required to do. And with the way the world is changing and the way the dynamics in which relationships are changing, a lot of the men that are married currently, that are successfully, happily married, they do more within the house than just pay the bills and sit down on the couch and chill. A lot of men come home and then they'll assist with raising the kids, in the day-to-day stuff. Like the men that are like married for the most part, there's a small percentage that may not do anything, but a lot of the men that are in that situation do a lot of assistance and don't look at it as just, I make all the money, so don't talk to me and do X, Y, Z. And when you label it as just provision being money, I think it escapes the nuances and the other things that we bring to the table, like being a stable place for her to mentally attach to and feel grounded, where she don't feel like she being judged or attacked. Because women view security very different than how we view security. Like if I was just to think about security from my mind, it's shit. As long as I got my gun and I take care of all the exits and make sure I got all that, then I'm securing the premises. In a woman's mind, they have so much going back and forth emotionally. They be in turmoil. They be needing to attach to things, and it's a lot more that goes into it. And when you can provide, like when women say a safe space, or like I usually use Judge Lynn Tola as an example, as she talked about her husband was her 260-pound Valium, because he mentally made her feel safe and protected. And having that skill set makes you an ultimate provider, especially in the way women interpret it.
Thank you.
Marcus, how do you quantify that? What does that mean?
Okay. So like you want like an example?
Please.
All right. So when I was talking about my wife learning how to cook, right? I was a safe space in that process, because instead of me being frustrated and saying you can't cook, you need to learn how to cook, and just giving her a demand and backing off like, hey, you're responsible for. I told you to learn how to cook. You need to learn how to cook. When she bring me the meal, being this ain't right, you can't cook. Instead of doing that, providing encouragement, positive reinforcement, letting her know that it's okay to explain the issue that she's having with whatever problem it is within that, and maybe we could work through it and get to a solution together. So her being able to rely on me in a way where she don't feel like, because women, as much as we say women don't apologize and take accountability, they blame themselves a whole lot for a lot of stuff internally. They just don't voice it. So because they always doing that, they're constantly looking for affirmation or to feel good enough. They struggle with that a whole lot. So part of making them feel secure is making them feel good enough.
What percentage of men do you think fits that category?
Which one?
The ability to, like, the type of thing, like, just based off your example, woman can't cook. You can't cook. This shit is disgusting. You need to go back to the drawing board. Stop that. What percentage of men would you say are that?
Single or married?
Single. Because we obviously know majority of men are single right now. Only 36% of men are married. So let's just go with single. Or you could do total.
Okay, so I think that the men, because the men with the who operate in the way I'm speaking, I don't think they stay single very long. To Shan point, I kind of agree with her on that. So I'm gonna say the percentage would be shit.
You saying that you don't think that men who have that mindset don't stay single very long?
I don't. I really don't.
What are you basing it on?
The men that I know, when they became like, so one of my family members recently got divorced, right? I knew he would be married as soon as he decided to, because he had been in a relationship and he had gained skills within that relationship that made him highly attractive to the female population, and he just had to whittle down which woman he wanted to marry. He was married maybe 4 or 5 years after the divorce, like somebody like Humble did, who does those things. He is after his wife, I believe she passed, right, JR? He was married like very soon, short after. Most of the men that you hear us in the space talk about, if something was to happen, they lost their wife or whatever, and they wanted to be remarried. It sounds like ego, but I think they're speaking to confidence in their skill set when they say, "I'm pretty confident that I would be able to find a suitable wife within a realistic time frame as soon as they heal or got over it."
All right,
so
you referencing men that have already been married. I just want to know, like, in totality, like,
less than 50%.
49, less than 40.
Let's go with 40. I don't know.
4 and 10. All right.
The things we usually quantify as what a good man is, women don't necessarily use this.
No, I wasn't even basing it off of what we think. I'm basing it off of what you said. That's why.
Yeah. So I'm saying like 40% of what I'm saying.
Hold on. What is this question?
Sweeney?
Basically, because when we talk about emotional intelligence, because I'm gonna be real with you, I've always known men that have been sensitive to their women, like, in that regard. Like, I don't know very many men that are that crass, even single, where they would just be like, yeah, like, to speak the way that you said that they speak in the opposite, because I can't necessarily like totally quote what you just said, but like speak the opposite of that. I don't know very many men like that. They're hypersensitive to their women, at least their women.
Sweeney, why weren't you here last week? Because I said this, right? I said the men should let the women speak, right? And the men was like, oh, we want to give solutions. I say, don't give any solutions. That's what the research says. Most of the men said, no, you know how men are. We're going to give solutions. But what I really was talking about was emotional intelligence. But the men were not trying to hear it. They're like, no, what she talking about? She don't know what she's talking about. I'm talking about research. But what Marcus is saying, if you have that, if you go the extra mile and you do listen to her and you see her point of view and you let her, vent or whatever, y'all saying that y'all don't want to listen to the woman. He's saying if you have emotional intelligence, you're not going to have no problems with women. And I agree.
Okay. All right. So yeah. So if we're talking about that, right? I think it's been kind of almost a. I ain't gonna lie to you. I've been watching Martin, right? And that have to have been the most toxic fucking relationship I've ever seen. And he exhibited every toxic behavior that we say that men exhibit, but we like look at it as being manly. But it seemed like a caricature because when you go out, you listen to real men. Will they give a woman a solution? Absolutely. But we listen to their problems more than anything. They come home, complain about their homegirl. They send us memes all day, every day about shit they thought about. Like my wife sent me 87 goddamn memes and reels and YouTube videos.
What?
Less than a
And
week.
you're married. That was the point. I said
know.
most married men are able to do that.
That's why I say I'm saying that even when we're talking about men who are in relationships, like when they get in relationships, if it's a one, like we're not when we, I think we conflate guys who are just kicking it, and then guys who actually got girlfriends or in marriages. They tend to do these things for the women that they decide to actually start relationships with. They listen to their shit. They listen to their problems. Do they offer solutions from time to time? Yeah. Do they argue from time to time? Yeah. Because they may not always see eye to eye. But for the most part, these are just normal. I look at people as just normal people. You can't encounter the opposite sex your entire life and not pick up that skill.